Hello, my name is Brion Wagner, and I am and have been mentally ill for most of my life. And I'm older than I look. I'm bipolar. I'm actually on bi all over, more on that later. Bipolar affective disorder, also known as manic depression. And prosopagnosia, which is not a mental illness per se, but it sure hasn't helped my mood. It kept me pretty socially isolated. I had a vision. Doctors had cut open my head to look inside. What came out was shameful, disgusting. Even the doctors were sick. I think this was an early experience of depression. I was about 8. Within a couple of years, I was planning suicide. It was comforting to know that I always had that option if it ever got too much to bear. It's always there if I need it. It's been 13 years since the manic episode where I lost my job, my home, and came back to Peterborough to live in my mom's basement for a while. I'm very grateful for the support I received from my family and friends, including a tenant in my studio. A tenant in my studio who was bipolar. She figured it out long before I knew anything was wrong. And she explained it to me, and she made sure I would eat every day and got me drugs when I was afraid to go to the hospital. Without her help, things would have been very different. I got better, and then worse again, and better. It cycles. Mostly I've had the depression since childhood. It's been the plague. Sometimes I can't talk to people, can't look at people, I can't eat. The food hallucinates at me that it's rotten, revolting, and stinking. Except for melon, for some reason. Melon always stays fresh, and I always keep one in the kitchen, because I know if I really need it, I'm not going to be able to go out and get one. But I've learned, I've been like that twice in the past 2 months, both times for less than a week. But I've learned a few ways out of it. And one of them is creative effort. It helps me focus and can prod me into working, into caring about something, having a goal, a reason to get out of bed. And it can become a positive feedback loop. It can sometimes go too far. And I'm afraid of that too, because it will end badly. It can be incredibly productive at first, but things start to unravel and fall apart, and I crash into depression, leave a bunch of unfinished projects. As it's building up though, it can be more fun than you would ever believe. Like a year and a half ago, I had just produced a show in Saskatoon, and I was in Toronto, and I had all this money and all this energy, and I had more exciting things to do than eat or sleep and bathe. I spent all the money, but I can only account for about a third of it. Too busy chasing down all the connections other people just weren't seeing. The webs of meaning that flowed through everything and drew me forward in every direction. In a Valley Village, for example, I saw a lot of stuff I liked, stuff I wanted, but too much of everything. So I asked myself, what do I really need? A big knapsack, big enough for camping or travel. Black, please. I turned to my left, and there it was. $15. Used ones, spare straps in the side pocket, airline tags on it, straight from Greece. So I bought it and went to a Greek restaurant to wait for further instructions. It was closed, so I walked at random, searching for answers, and finding more answers than I had dreamed possible. They were everywhere, all connected. After a few days, it got to be too much. And one night I stole a tap from a construction site to defend myself against what? I didn't know, but it was everywhere. Every footstep, every creaking branch, every speck of dirt on the streets, sharply defined in the headlights of passing cars. Time slowed so I could examine every element in great detail. Cold and sharp and menacing, watching me. I've never been so alert. It could be playful, too. I followed imaginary signs that led me through an obscure old neighborhood with winding streets, back out into a circle, back out to where I had been. Still carrying my tap, plus a large collection of important imaginative items I had found in the garbage. But after a week of this, I had to come back to Peterborough to prepare for my world tour with Rocky Erickson. And that's not going to happen. He never even returned my email. From adolescence, I had a lot of sexual confusion. I was attracted to boys and girls, but I was so terrified of people in general, I had little chance to figure out anything. I used to worry that I was only pretending to be attracted to girls, trying to fit in, that I was gay, and I was just wishing or hoping, pretending to be normal or whatever in at least one way. On the other hand, I was afraid that I wasn't really gay either, that I just wanted to be, partly because it would be simpler than the confusion I felt. Partly, I hoped to understand why I felt so different, why I didn't fit in, and if it was that simple, if it was just because I'm gay, then I wouldn't be alone. There are other gay people, there's even gay pride. The only downside I could see was that at my high school I would get beat up for being a fag. And so what? That was already happening anyway. But it wasn't that simple. And I thought I had to be one way or the other. I wanted both, and I couldn't decide which was right for me. I thought there were opposites. If one of my perceived options had at least felt wrong, I could at least decide by default. But there were no clues. Even wet dreams could feature boys or girls. Though never both at once. I had to wait years for that. It took a long time, and more than a little help, to understand that there was no contradiction between my desire for men and women, that actually they were complementary. I figured out a lot, just in time for Peterborough's first Pride Parade in 2003. And I figured out a lot more just recently. Do you like the skirt, by the way? Yeah. That's I found it in the garbage. I found a lot of my best clothes that way, actually. And this was in a bag of clothes I collected for paint rags, and I was sorting through them, and I found this. I thought it looked like it might fit. It's the right color. What the hell? I tried it on. And you know what? I like it. It's really comfortable. So that was a year ago, and I tried it on a couple more times before I had the balls to wear it in public. And not tonight. I figured everyone's going to be dressed up tonight. So yesterday afternoon, I walked through my neighborhood on my way to Sadler House for the forum on discussing alternative masculinities. I thought that was appropriate. Meetings are bi-weekly. And once, many years ago, my then partner told me of an article she was reading about Asperger's syndrome, part of the autism spectrum. You should read it, she said. It sounds a lot like you. I thought, yeah, you think you know what's wrong with everybody. But she continued, it's sometimes called the little professor syndrome. I said, okay, I'll read the article. It did sound a lot like me. My grade 2 teacher told my parents that I shouldn't be reading grown-up science books, that I should be reading for enjoyment. She didn't understand. I loved reading about science. But I corrected her in class. I had to. She didn't know shit about dinosaurs. Or anatomy, or astronauts, or pyramids. She was hopeless. But I was punished for that, and I learned to shut up. It's taken a long time to get over it. Many of the signs are only traces by now. I seem to have outgrown a lot of it. And I owe that partly to LSD, but that's another story. In reading about others' experiences, I recognized my own. And it hurt to be reminded of those things. The monotone voice, the inability to face people, the obsessive behavior, the social panic. I walked with my head down. I could hit my head on mailboxes and stuff. And I'd get lost because I was only paying attention to the sidewalk in front of me. But I couldn't look up because then I would see other people, and other people would see me. But there's little point in diagnosing what I used to be. I've changed a lot. And overall, I'm happy with the changes. Prosopagnosia, or face blindness, is a neurological condition that's most often associated with autism and with manic depression. An area of the brain called the fusiform gyrus doesn't fully develop. The fusiform gyrus recognizes faces and does that quickly, accurately, and without conscious effort. I have no idea what that would be like. I can memorize a few faces, but it takes time, and the memory fades quickly. In grade school, I could lose friends over the summer holidays. I could never be sure it was them. They must have thought I was ignoring them. I can't recognize faces, and I have to figure out who everyone is every time. I can know someone for years, but not see them at all if they're somewhere where I don't expect them to be. I can know two people in different circumstances and not realize they're the same person. If you change your clothes or haircut or take off your glasses, I won't find you again. This caused me a lot of paranoia, fear, and humiliation until I figured out the cause on December 14th, 2009. Things have been better since then. At the time, I was so relieved I thought I could kill myself. Jump off the Hunter Street Bridge and hit the ice and freeze there, like a Don Martin cartoon from Mad Magazine, with icicles and everything. It would have been hilarious. The absence at the center of my life, and I finally understood it, and I was free. But there was still something I had to do. I've been telling people about my discovery, starting with those closest to me, because I needed them to understand why I am this way. And it was difficult, and it was sometimes highly emotional. And I just wanted to tell everyone so I could move on. And there was an event coming up, a benefit for legal costs for the family of Levi Schaefer, a mentally ill man murdered by OPP. An event focused on mental health and social justice. Where am I going to see more of my friends in one place than this? So I told a friend what I had planned, and she called it coming out. And that's a good analogy. And I needed to do that. So I did. There's a YouTube video of it, heavily edited so you can't see how scared I was. And I was told it would be a good educational video for face blindness because it covered the basic social situations we face. But I said fuck too much. And I heard that someone had self-diagnosed after hearing me speak. And I was happy about that some of the things I had learned could be helpful to others, until I realized that this could involve responsibility. And I've been afraid of responsibility, so it's taken me 2 years to try anything like this again. I've thought about the life that I could have had without prosopagnosia and the rest, if I'd been what I thought of as a real person, like other people. Neurotypical. That's the polite word for you people. And that would have made some things a lot easier. I've eventually come to realize that it wouldn't have made life essentially any less challenging. And facing these challenges is part of what makes me the man I am today. If I hadn't had my weaknesses, I wouldn't have developed the same strengths. And it's taken me a long time to appreciate those strengths. Whatever I've learned, I didn't learn it in a vacuum. I've had a lot of help. I've needed a lot of help. Still, whatever I've learned about self-knowledge, self-acceptance, and self-love, it didn't come easily. And I never believed I would even live this long, much less come to understand my condition and be able to explain it to people who need to understand it too. So I feel a responsibility to share what I've learned. Responsibility not just to anyone who might learn from it, but a responsibility to myself as well. I'm ready to face that now. And I'm grateful to the Trent Queer Collective and the Center for Gender and Social Justice and Artspace for providing a safe place to do that, and to all of you for listening. Thank you.